One of the best things about History Fair is the focus on local history. And that really speaks to the kids because they're doing historical research in their backyard.
So our History Day project is the history of Attucks School, which is the black school in Carbondale, and it was formed in 1914 and was the African American school until 1964 when it was integrated with Carbondale Community High School.
We did it on integration and how it affected the community because we thought a lot of different sides of the story weren't being shown as much in main media.
Wouldn't it be cheaper to pay for one school?
That doesn't matter though. All the teachers and their supportiveness makes up for it.
Yeah, but we still deserve a better education.
Maybe one day.
I think one thing we learned was that a lot of people actually didn't want to be integrated, which was interesting because you usually hear that they did want to be integrated, but one thing we learned was they actually really liked it being just Attucks.
When you're taught about integration in class and everything, you're usually just told this happened in 1954 and immediately everyone went to schools and then it was a happy story. But that's not really true. Attucks was integrated 10 years later in a lot of schools. I think some of them were even integrated after that. And so that's one thing. There's also the fact that not all people who were integrated wanted it to be integrated, especially with Attucks because it was a very central part of the community back then.
Despite the difficulties they faced integrating, Attucks students went on to live successful lives and careers, such as Thomas C. Reynolds, who played for the Harlem Globetrotters.
Delma Algie, a business owner.
Elsie Bracefield, a professional basketball player.
Glenda Kimley, a physician.
Peaches Laster, a corrections counselor.
Eddie Blythe, a lawyer.
Bob Willis, a court manager.
William Perkins, an early education administrator.
James Walker, an airman and business owner, and countless others who got their start at Attucks.
I think it helps my group remember things and learn more about the history of Carbondale.
Well, it's important for kids to feel that they have a choice in what they do. And one of the wonderful things, there are a variety of projects that they can engage in. And I always have my students work with kids they want to work with and pursue a topic of their choosing. The topic, there's always a theme for every year, and it's intentionally broad so that it can be maneuvered to reflect the interest of that particular student.
For my project, I did a performance about Sacagawea and the Lewis and Clark expedition, or the Corps of Discovery, which was the actual name of the expedition.
And the kids really find that it's fascinating because they learn all these personal stories that speak to them.
I think it helps you learn a lot more because you actually have to do all the work. It's better than just doing an essay or reading in the textbook because you have to act it out. In my case, you act it out. You have to memorize it. So now you have this information in your brain because you memorize this. You are this person when you're on stage.
I like doing projects like this. This is my third year doing it, and so each year I like to do something a little different so I can get different experiences each time around. So every experience is similar but also unique in its own way.
When you're in History Fair, you're in charge of it, and what's even more important is that you have to play a person. So you're completely immersed in it, and it's almost just being taken back there. It's the closest thing you can get to it, basically.
Plus, we want more of the personal aspect of it. And whether you're talking about one particular individual who stands out in history, women have a lot of girls interested in History Fair, and they are often very interested in a woman's role because history, as we all know, has been written by older white men. And women need to have a say as a people of color. And they all were there, and so they need to have a way to find out about their people who mean something to them.
So our History Day project is based on Rosalind Franklin and the discovery of the double helix structure of DNA. So it's a little bit science-based, but the majority of it is about Maurice Wilkins, Rosalind Franklin, Francis Crick, and James Watson, and how they collectively essentially discovered the double helix structure of DNA. And we also go into a little bit more detail about how Rosalind Franklin's work was stolen and she was not credited about it.
It really means a lot, especially like being a woman I'm involved in STEM in a lot of ways, and being able to do Rosalind Franklin, who is very important in STEM and in biology. It's been really cool to see how women have impacted and allowed me to be where I am and be able to have the opportunities in STEM that I have. It means a lot because it's hard to say that it's a frontier because like she didn't get the credit for this. It almost wasn't a frontier, but then it became a frontier when we like realized what she had actually done and how much she was an influential woman in STEM.
It's embarrassing not knowing what people have done before, because the old adage is, you know, if you fail to learn from history, you are bound to repeat it, and that includes all the negative. And it's so important that kids be aware of how important it is to know their history.
You have to do the research by yourself. You actually get to perform it and like do interviews with people, so it's not just like you're reading about it in a textbook.
Well, I've done History Day for quite a while. I did it back in middle school and I'm doing it again now. So I think it's pretty important that we look back on history and that we talk about things that happened in the past that we might be ignoring right now, that we should recognize as faults or successes. In the lecture setting, it's more we're absorbing raw information. And in terms of this project, it's more like we are required to have a deep understanding of it.
Well, in the classroom, usually the teacher makes you read and then they give you a worksheet. But this way, you actually do research on it, and it's like in your head, and you have to memorize it. And it like works on your problem-solving skills and group working.
So what's most interesting to me is that we can talk about the various perspectives and various people who employ those perspectives.
It can get hard at sometimes, but in the end, it's very beneficial. So I feel like more schools should be doing it.
If you change the way you look at things,